Hello. In this video, I want to create a series of videos, one out of three. This being the first one, and it seems like it's going to be dedicated to the Oracle products. Oracle is one of the best, if not the best, of the best of the best databases companies in the world. It provides a large number of products, and over time, they've done several contributions to the open source community. One of them, they have the acquisition of VirtualBox, which is one of my favorite virtualization softwares. The one that's been used in this recording and some other videos. In this video, I want to try the first one out of three. This first video is going to be the installation of Oracle Linux. Oracle Linux is possibly one of the best alternatives to CentOS now that Red Hat defined that it's not going to be longer supported at the end of 2021. So we have only about 6 or 8 months to go. We have to look for alternatives. There's some forks of the CentOS project, but Oracle Linux seems to be one of the most robust solutions. So this video is going to be dedicated to install Oracle Linux in a virtual machine, Oracle VirtualBox. Video number 2 down the road is going to be based on use the installation of Oracle XE, which is the Oracle Express Edition. Basically, it's the baby version of the Oracle database. They give it to you so people can get familiar with the interface, with the bells and whistles. They have some constraints in terms of the data you can use. They have some constraints of the amount of resources they can actually utilize, like in CPU and RAM. But in trade of that, you get familiar with the technology and get the opportunity to go ahead and get your experience. To me, this is going to be one of the best and most mature installations of Oracle database. Back in the day with Oracle Red Hat 6, install Oracle, it was a pain, literally a pain. This is one of the easiest, more straightforward installations. And finally, video 3 is going to be focusing in bringing this Oracle database, Oracle Apex in Oracle Linux to the latest REST interface with Apex. Apex is a metaprogramming abstraction that lets you build applications using PL SQL. It lets you have the power of all the applications be extracted in 3 files. One for the application, one for the database schema, another one for your data. And basically, with everything with a web-based interface, it lets you actually have the application builder, the SQL workshops, and all the tasks like team development and application gallery for rapid prototyping, making development a breeze. It's magic. So I want to cover that one in video 3 to actually get it up and running. But for now, let's go ahead and get started with Oracle Linux. Like I was saying, we want to use Oracle VirtualBox. Seems like this is going to be a video for Oracle all along. So I'm going to get Oracle Linux virtual machine. I'm going to give it enough beef on this one, even though Oracle XE in the database only going to use 2 gigs. I'm going to give 4 gigs to this virtual machine. I want to create a virtual disk because we'll install the operating system, which takes 5 gigs, and the database takes another 5. I want to be able to take uncompressed another 10. It's going to be about 15, probably 20 plus 10 gig of storage. Let me just give 40 gigs. Not that we have around 40 gigs to the virtual machine, but just bear with me. 40 gigs on that one. So basically we have 4. I'm going to give a little more beef in terms of the processors. I'm going to give 4 CPUs, 4 gigs of RAM, and 40 gigs of hard drive space. Another thing and an oddity that I found was the fact that the system needed some tweaks here on the display. The graphics, we need to get the USB drive in terms of the mouse. USBs, shared folders, machines, advanced. Yes, here we go on the motherboard. The pointing, because the recording software gets some oddities, we need to change the pointer device to USB tablet, otherwise the recording gets a little iffy. We're not able to. This is a little bug for the Red Hat or Oracle. Also, I want to change, so we put a CPU processors for CPUs. Also, I like to do some little port forwarding, so whenever we get it up and running, I can just go ahead and SSH the box from localhost 422 to 10.0.15 on 422. That will be enough to do the reverse mapping. We also have to tell them to use the Oracle Linux, which is the Oracle Linux release 8. And I should be able to start it. I should be able to get the machine started. Oh, for some reason there's another bug on the selection of the virtual drive. Sometimes it picks the wrong image. Seems like you have to go twice and select on the storage, even though it's selected. To reselect the Oracle Linux, and that should take it the second time. I don't know, it's a little couple little quirky bugs to be sharpened around the edges. So now we can actually boot the Oracle Linux install. I want to change the virtual screen zoom for easy on the viewer. Go back here. This is what we're doing. We're doing Oracle Linux, and here we go. I want to escape this part so it doesn't do the verification of the drives. And with that said, we should be able to go ahead and get started. As you can see, the booting process is pretty similar to a Red Hat base like CentOS or Fedora, or even Windows 8 RHEL. There's another initiatives for the project like a fork. Well, another one is called AMA Linux, and the creator of CentOS is actually uh, doing another work around it. So we'll see some of the alternatives coming out pretty soon. But Oracle has done a great job supporting the open source community. Right here, we come with the language, nothing fancy. Everything's pretty similar to what we're used to in a regular. We see the nice branding on Oracle Linux. I remember it used to be Unbreakable Linux, the one of the advertisings. So I want to select English as the language and also English as the installation. Now we have some of the things we have to set up. Because we select the local DVD drive I downloaded previously. This is using the local DVD media, 9 gigs of data. I wish we have the network installation. It gave me some hard time, so I just went ahead. I just went and ended downloading the whole thing. The whole thing. I want to set up a root password, and we have the root password here. I wonder if I yes, I know it's too short. There we go. So let's go ahead and take a look to something here. KDump. No, I don't want to enable KDump at this point. It's a virtual machine and network policy, something like criminal justice, security policy, the profiles that have FBI. No, hell no, I don't want to do this. And the network is not connected, so I can go ahead and say connected. I can select, okay, this is going to be, what's the name of this machine? It's going to be Oracle 8 Linux, 8LX. I apply these changes. And let's go ahead and configure. I suggest to go ahead and select automatically with priority, so you don't have to deal with to starting the network interface. That should be enough. You have your host name, you have it start automatically, disable KDOM, disable the security policy, Let's go into the installation destination. Yeah, hard drive, the 40 gigs is fine. We'll just create. Everything should be fine. If you have a network, you have to put a URL, but otherwise, I think it looks good. I don't want to create any users. I'm ready to begin installation. So with all that said, I'll just click begin and let the games begin. So now, each is going to be the waiting game. This is going to be creating the XFS, the file system, the partitions, the logical volume managers, get everything on my Oracle 8 Linux server. And this one start doing the packaging installation process. We can go through these for the typically the control Alt F2 or the control Alt F2. We should give Alt F3, 4. It tells me see what is actually doing happening. And it starts control Alt F1. Go back to the same install. Control F7. Let's see. Control Alt F6. Return me back to the installation control. Alt F5, 4. You see the shell. So the things actually is doing right here. It's not as verbose as I was expecting to preparing the installation, but Control Alt F1, 2, F3, F4, 5, and F6 go back to the X. So right now it's just starting. It's just going to be the waiting game. I'm not going to make you wait and watch all the installation as this goes. As you can see, it's doing a lot of things in the packages. We cannot see the detail on what it's actually doing, but anyway, I want to pause the video right here. I want to resume the video as soon as this is finished, so you can see the end result. We can bounce the machine and see what is actually the latest outcome, which is going to be just a Linux installation. But at this point, I want to just kind of pause the video right here, and we go back in a little bit. We'll see how long it takes to actually get the installation done. Thank you. All right. About 25 minutes after install, finally completed it. Point, it actually assumed that the whole installation got done. The virtual machine is about to be restarted, and it took about 25 minutes for the installation. I want to rescale 125%. The results might change when I start X. As you can see, you have the newest version of the kernel according to that ISO. The next thing I want to do right now is actually run the DNF updates and probably pause the video again to make sure this gets updated. There's a new version of the kernel that needs to be updated prior. I'll suggest that one to prior to install the new the Oracle XE database and later the Oracle Apex Application Express. They separate the Oracle Express Edition from the Oracle Apex back in version 10, I believe, if I remember correctly. They put it together, but later, because some vision from Oracle, they separated product, and it's coming a long, long way. I'm really proud to see what they've done. They did a fantastic job in terms of Oracle. I'm really impressed, and in quite some time, again, first Oracle database installed on Red Hat 6, it was a pain. So right now it's asking for some of the license. Of course, you want to take the time. I think it's kind of odd, the virtual screen. Let's see if I go at 150. Here we go. I think it looks better. Of course, you want to take the time to go to the EULA on Oracle, just like you'll do, and agree with that license. User creation. Yes, I want to create my user, just like my other Linux installation. I'll create my own user. That's fine. I want to finish the configuration at this point. At this time, that should be just about everything for Unbreakable Linux. And it's finishing, starting the X, started the GNOME desktop. That's the one. Is the file used by Oracle Linux. Maybe some future releases might change. As you can see, I can log in with a new created user, and I can just log in. Since I set up the root password and the user, I can actually log in on that one. It comes with a nice interface. I kind of like the theme. They come out with some kind of military camouflage logos here. Time zone. Did I miss the time zone? Probably I missed the time zone. I should be supposed to set up the US Central. Alright, I can go ahead and change it later. Sure, I'll skip over this part. Let's go ahead and get started. So right now, I can see that is the GNOME version Oracle Linux, and some of these changes a little bit on the this is the brown background. Sometimes it changes to the green. I think it's after the updates. They did a pretty nice job on the branding Oracle Linux and everything. So right now I can super user update, and the DNF is the one, the package manager that replaced Yum. It's backwards compatible. Oracle Linux is 8 latest. Another thing I want to do while this is working, I want to show you something here where I can just do a file window. Let's go ahead and take a look at something. df-h. Let's clear the house a little bit. df-h. Let's be fast. So as you can see, this is the 40 gigs created on the root directory. Usage 4.7 for the operating system. Leave me about 31 gigs available. And in the devices, the A1, it have a 1 gig for boot, which is 29%, typically group. That's what it's using right now, about 4.75 gigs of operating system install. At this point, I'm doing the DNF update, and DNF update is going to go ahead and check the repositories for Oracle Linux. It's going to go ahead and synchronize the package manager, going to synchronize the latest updates. In this case, for the 8.3, the Linux base 8.3, it comes with a bunch of packages, 574 megs. I will have to tell them yes, we want to go ahead and do the install. As you can see, it's going to be 195 packages. The ones are being used and installed. Seems like it's going fairly quick. I could probably pause the video for this 195. It's going fairly quick. Seems like the bandwidth is playing in our favor. I guess I want to just continue. 126. It's just about done to be there. Download all the packages, the new version of the Linux kernel, and getting those synchronizations on packages. It probably going to ask us to reboot one more time, and from there we can actually see that we have all the packages updated, and that will conclude our first video, 1 out of 3. Yes, absolutely correct. The first video out of 3 of the Oracle install from the using virtual Oracle VirtualBox, installing Oracle Linux. I want to continue with the Oracle Express Edition database, and we want to wrap it up with the installation of Oracle Application Express. The whole suite of Oracle. Seems like this video is fully dedicated to Oracle. It's going to take some time here. I think for 1 out of 384. Yeah, it downloaded packages, but running the RPM validations, the prereqs, the validations, and do the upgrading is taking some time. I will say it's going to take about 10 minutes once we have everything in place. So it'd be wise to pause the video and continue when this is done. All right, the Windows update's finished. Got some time. Install the new kernel. Install about 388 packages. You can just go in there. 284. Verify all 384. Took another 10-15 minutes or so. So we have everything updated. It's time to reboot. Just to make sure we have everything in a prestige condition. I don't anticipate at this time any more issues. This is successful. You can see the different versions of the kernel here, and actually got updated. So we did this installation of the Oracle Linux from the DVD, and with that we perform the full install in a virtual Oracle VirtualBox with 4 processors, 4 gigs of RAM, and 40 gigs of hard drive space. We change the settings on the USB mouse for iPad to avoid the screen recording little bug recording. We're using the ShareX software to do the recording, and took about 25 minutes the installation, took another 15-20 minutes to do the updates. That depends on your speed on your hard drive and your bandwidth. So right now, with the user we created, we ended with a Oracle Unbreakable Linux distribution using the GNOME distribution. I want to take a look to the space and the hard drive should be just about the same. You can actually see this just the regular GNOME interface here. If I do X, well, here S. So we're still 4.7, 5 gigs. We're just about 5 gigs on the operating system. See, let's release. This is based on Oracle Linux Server version 8.3. It looks like Fedora Server. Doesn't show the version of the kernel, but you can get it here, which is 5.4.17 on 2012. So that's what we have so far. Stuff we have top. It's using about 1.1 gig of RAM. So that's the system, basic Linux installation, Oracle Linux installation, and that's going to be the foundation for the next 2 videos. Video number 2 is going to be based, follow up on this one, to install the Oracle XE, the free Oracle database. Some of the constraints under this platform is a super easy install. It's going to be really a walk in the park compared to the previous installation. Oracle did a great job. And the last video is going to be the installation of Oracle Application Express to use the web interface and the REST APIs to build with ease a lot of applications. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. Have a great day. Happy Easter 2021. Thank you.